The last 1 year has been a year of special challenges and difficulties for our country as well as for the whole world. Of course, it is unfortunate that a global pandemic has claimed many lives. Apart from the humanitarian crisis, the pandemic has caused an unprecedented global economic crisis, which has severely affected the well-being of each of our fellow citizens, said Prime Minister Irakli Garibashvili while presenting a report and a 10-year development plan to the parliament.
Due to the pandemic, our economy shrank by 6.2% last year. However, we did not stop for a moment. The infrastructure projects, the agricultural works, the important fields of production did not stop. The state, in the form of various direct aids or benefits, has provided maximum assistance to entrepreneurs and employed people. In a short period of time, we have attracted funding of $2.1 billion from international financial institutions. This made it possible to fully fund pandemic response measures and maintain macroeconomic stability, said Irakli Garibashvili.
We have developed a powerful package of health, social and business support measures. Health spending totaled $900 million. Business support 3 billion Georgian lari. Citizens' social protection measures amounted to 1.3 billion Georgian lari. This year is a year of economic recovery with a reduction in the impact of the pandemic. I remind you that the 70% increase in exports in April exceeded the data before the pandemic and clearly indicates a tendency to improve. Another statement coming from Prime Minister of Georgia.
According to Irakli Garibashvili, the country is developing transit and logistics potential, transport infrastructure, integration into international transport networks continues, and Georgia is establishing itself as a regional hub. After the difficult 2020, our economy started to grow. In March, the economy grew by 4%. In April, we had a record growth of 44.8%. In May, we expect growth of more than 20%. I do not want to hurry up. The statistics will be published very soon, said the Prime Minister. Geostat will publish preliminary data by the end of June.
And this is the Checkpoints, anchored, co-authored, presented by Elena Kvanchilashvili. And few words about myself. I am Georgi Sakadze and I'm editor-in-chief of Forbes in Georgia. And we are here in Forbes Georgia studio to tell you more about business and economics.
Yes, 10 p.m. sharp, and let me remind those that are living here in Georgia that wearing face masks in the open space is no longer mandatory, and starting from July the 1st, curfew will be fully lifted as well. This means that the government decided to open the economy despite the fact that less than 3% of Georgia's population is currently fully vaccinated. Due to the shortage of the second jabs of AstraZeneca mainly, and quite vague, to be frank, explanations from the government, the only specific date that we know is that 1 million jabs of vaccines should enter the country basically next week already. We will have to wait and see again, as in many cases we have done so far, and before the reasons of the current shortage becomes more clear and we analyze it on Forbes Georgia Health platform more in depth, here is what we have put together so far. How does the private sector play its very limited role in fighting the pandemic around the world and in Georgia as well, and what are some initiatives coming both from governments and businesses to incentivize the vaccination process, the only way to end this pandemic.
Companies around the world are gradually claiming that the workforce must be vaccinated as soon as possible. According to the BBC, the management of publisher company Bloomsbury says that vaccines will be compulsory for United Kingdom staff returning to its offices when they reopen. During the pandemic, 2 employees of Bloomsbury died due to COVID-19, and after the tragic incident, the management of the company strongly warns all employees that if the mandatory vaccination is unacceptable for them, they can consider looking for another job. Bloomsbury is not the only company that has made vaccination mandatory for employees. Bank of America has also confirmed that all of its vaccinated employees can return to the office in early September, as more than 70,000 staff have voluntarily disclosed their vaccine status. Another is Pimlico Plumbers, which also requires mandatory vaccination of staff. Moreover, the company said that none of the new people who will not be vaccinated with at least one dose of the vaccine won't be hired. According to the legal director of the GMB trade union, in order to increase the vaccination rate among the employees, it's necessary to have an information campaign and to raise the awareness of the staff. Trade unions also claim that bullying employees who are unsure about vaccination is an injustice that must be taken into account by all employers. The legal director of the GMB trade union recommends that before making any decision, it's essential to consult with the employee to ensure that the decision is balanced. According to the BBC, no large-scale research has been conducted so far, and it's unknown whether this is a dominant trend. But some companies announce incentives for vaccinated employees. As for our country, according to the latest data, there are 70,000 people in Georgia who have been vaccinated with 2 doses. Citizens who are fully vaccinated will enjoy the benefits from July. Both the NCDC and the Ministry of Health said that COVID testing will no longer be required for a vaccinated person, and such citizens will benefit from certain discounts from the business sectors. As the Minister of Economy and Sustainable Development, Natia Turnava, said, the tourism industry is a priority group in the context of vaccination, because now it's very important to restore the tourism industry, its marketing support on an international platform to let the whole world know that Georgia's tourism industry is safe. Therefore, the Tourism Administration within the system of the ministry works with various associations. There are tourism, restaurant and hotel associations. But in the meantime, according to Shota Burjanadze, the head of Restaurant Association, so far just over 2,000 employees have been vaccinated with 2 doses. The staff wants to be vaccinated, but there are not enough vaccines in the country. 1 million doses are set to enter the country next week. So, with more than 180 million people worldwide infected with COVID-19 and nearly 4 million dead, the fact is that the vaccination trend needs to accelerate. This is the only way to end the pandemic.
By the way, in the studio, both anchors, all cameramen, and the producer-in-chief, all of them, including our covers, they are all fully vaccinated. So let me brag about this.
Of course.
Openly
I'll give
and
you.
transparently.
Oh, okay. I'll give you this right, Georgi. Now that I'm thinking about BMG and Forbes Georgia do have herd immunity, which brings more security and stability with it, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Of course, health safety is the most important these days, and also setting an example is important, and I think in this sense BMG and Forbes Georgia are doing just great.
Yes, fully agree here, Georgi. But do you remember what the president of Georgia's first question was after her vaccination?
Yeah. What do you mean? I see.
Do you remember that?
May I have may I have a glass of wine, correct?
That's true, exactly. And then we heard long explanations from NCDC that really one glass of alcohol was okay. It makes me smile every time.
Indeed. So, by the way, in 2020, the export of wine and spirits from Georgia amounted to $343 million. Exports of alcoholic beverages increased by 3.8% to $132 million. But beyond these numbers, 2020 was really tough on top performers. The checkpoints gathered some voices and data to show you the real impact and how the renewed rents adapted to the pandemic.
In 2020, the export of wine and spirits from Georgia amounted to $343 million. Exports of alcoholic beverages increased by 3.8% to $132 million. The leader in the ranking of the spirits industry in 2019 is the company Ascanelli. Its revenue amounted to more than 63 million gal. It's followed by Sarajishvili, whose income in 2019 was more than 45 million. Next comes the largest importer, GD Alco, with revenue of more than 43 million gal. Alcorium earned more than 24 million and smugglers more than 11 million gal. 2020 was tough on top performers. The checkpoints gathered some voices to show you the real impact and how the renowned brands adapted to the pandemic. Sarakashvili was founded in 1883 and as the largest wine brand, it also made a name for itself in 35 countries. This centuries-old experience of the company has overcome the difficulties of the past year.
Pandemic has caused great problems not only in Georgia but all over the world. This year was not very active in tourism. Everything was closed for a long period in time, which of course had a negative impact on sales of our product. Also, due to export markets, the situation was similar everywhere. Given the situation in the world, 2020 can still be considered a fairly normal year.
Jim Sherry is the first Georgian whiskey brand founded in 2017. Its founder said that in 10 years the brand will become noticeable in world markets. At this stage, Jim Sherry produces 3 types of whiskey aged in Saperavits, in Andali and brandy casks and is exported to 7 countries. The company's revenues fell, but during the pandemic they were able to enter new export markets and maintain prices. Moreover, the first distillery equipped with modern technologies was also opened.
Despite the difficulties, we entered the new markets. For example, we reloaded products in Germany. Despite the great difficulties, we are also entering the US market. In general, problems during logistics processes have become significantly more frequent. There were really big contradictions in this regard.
GD Alco, which for 15 years is the largest importer of premium alcohol in the country and introduces such well-known whiskey brands as Jack Daniel's, Jameson, Martin, Johnnie Walker, Baileys and Jägermeister. 2020 was full of challenges for this company, with revenues down 40% from 2019.
As a result of the complete closure of the HoReCa sector, revenues were reduced by at least, which was compounded by a change in consumer behavior due to an unstable and unpredictable situation. Accordingly, the so-called diligence and restrained spending, which was reflected in the company's sales. As a result, we face the transition from an expensive product to a cheaper one on the part of the consumer.
In conclusion, this year the expectations of the companies are positive. It's true that the easing of regulation and vaccinations are promising, but industry representatives also see risks. The difficult economic situation in the country hinders the production and sale of premium alcohol.
Interesting figures and voices indeed. Georgi, let me proceed then with the story of Sarakashvili. It is definitely one of the most renowned and old brands in Georgia. We're speaking of a man who practically created Georgia's business history. In 1984, David Sarakashvili already had opened cognac factories in Yerevan, Moscow, St. Petersburg, Kiev, Warsaw, Riga, Baku. And then since the 90s, he expanded his business to the rest of the world, and till this day continues to be competitive in its segment, not only in Georgia, but worldwide as well. Here is the story that the checkpoints pulled together for you.
Déjà 2 sur 3. Pourquoi tu parles de ça? Elle appartenait à ma mère. J'en sais rien. J'ai jamais vraiment cru. Je veux dire, j'ai jamais vraiment cru à un monde meilleur que celui-ci. Avec ce qui peut être meilleur.
Impressive stories are created by great people. Those who have enough intellect and courage not to be satisfied with what they have. So here we are, to present the story of a great person and unpack a great Georgian business history of Sarakashvili.
In the era when Georgia as a state had disappeared from the world map for 200 years, and it seemed like Russia had destroyed everything Georgian, there were people who, in addition to social cultural values, created the history of Georgian business. Among them was visionary David Sarakashvili, who was decades ahead of his time. Sarakashvili inherited a relatively rich legacy and was able to make a living for the rest of his life. However, his irresistible desire to learn new things made him the person worth praising. David Sarakashvili's father, Zakaria, believed that the best thing he could give his son was education. Before entering school, David received his education at home. He then joined the first gymnasium, which was later assisted regularly by an already successful entrepreneur. After high school, David continued his studies in St. Petersburg, but after 1 year he moved to Germany, where he received a doctorate in chemistry and philosophy.
When he went abroad to study, his parents motivated him to think about how he could benefit his country. Sarakashvili kept this mindset for a long time. A young man who only knew dry wine and cha-cha from his homeland suddenly found himself in the middle of Europe. He discovered a wide range of alcoholic drinks. Knowing that Georgia has a variety of fruits and grapes, Sarakashvili thought that the development of this field in Georgia would be profitable. He began to explore different alcohol drinks and discovered that in this wide assortment, only cognac was a grape product. So he began to study cognac in more depth.
To achieve this aim, he went to France and studied winemaking for 2.5 years. The acquired knowledge enabled him to establish cognac production. In 1884, Sarakashvili opened the first cognac factory on Belinsky Street in Tbilisi. In 1888 to 1889, he produced the first products. He was well aware that a country's independence required the development of local production. He was personally involved in every step of cognac making. By the end of the century, about 50 types of cognac were produced. At the same time, production expanded and factories opened in Yerevan and Baku. The drinks made from local grapes was placed in oak barrels, which give a unique flavor to the cognac. The work brought results, and the production soon made a name for itself, making Sarakashvili cognac known and appreciated everywhere. When Sarakashvili was starting to produce cognac, competing with low-quality but widely popular French cognac was difficult, especially considering that the means of communication were highly underdeveloped at the time. It was at this time, with Sarakashvili's support, that a viral cognac campaign began. In February 1945, Stalin, Roosevelt, and Churchill, members of the Big Three, attended the Yalta Conference. They were among the first to taste Sarakashvili cognac. During the tasting, Churchill praised Georgian cognac and was amazed by its taste. He thought that French specialists were working on cognac in Georgia and was surprised to find out that at the time, no foreigners worked at the Tbilisi cognac factory. This is how Georgian cognac started to become more popular in the world. During this period, the factory sold 400,000 manats worth of liquor and 150,000 manats worth of alcohol. If in 1895 the annual income of the cognac factory was 35,000 rubles, by 1903 it had increased to 981,700 rubles. After the death of David Sarakashvili in 1911, the factory was headed by his wife, Ekaterina Porakishvili, who continued to manage successfully and promoted the development of cognac production in Georgia. During the communist period, David Sarakashvili Cognac Factory became state-owned and was renamed the Tbilisi Cognac Factory.
Of course, we were affected by that horrible strike law on alcohol, and the company stopped operations while Sarajishvili's name was banned altogether as capitalist. Therefore, the factory was transferred to state ownership and was renamed the Tbilisi Cognac Factory. In 1994, the ownership was changed and the factory was transformed into a joint stock company, and the control stake was bought by Georgian businessman Elguja Bubuteishvili, who correctly defined the policy of the factory and the field.
In 1994, the company was transferred to a private owner and regained the name Sarajishvili. David Sarajishvili's qualities and initiatives as a manager were revolutionary. For the first time in the country's history, he initiated a paid leave and introduced an 8-hour working day. He set up a cafeteria for his employees, opened a library and a reading room. But perhaps most importantly, Sarajishvili wrote a will in which he stated that the proceeds from factories were to be used for the welfare of the workers. Thanks to the centuries-old tradition, experience, professionalism, diversity, and the latest technologies, Sarajishvili House continues the path to which David Sarajishvili has dedicated his whole life. Sarajishvili House has gained recognition in both local and international markets. Today, the company exports products to 20 countries on 4 continents. The constant creative search, love of work, and desire to move forward created the best Georgian alcohol brand in the country, Sarajishvili House.
Such high-end products are very highly demanded on foreign markets as well. Wine and spirit generally are very appealing and traditional export products for Georgia. But beyond the traditional products, FDI Intelligence apparently sees much more as a potential because this international publication wrote about Georgia with the title "Georgia Pushes Its Boundaries."
Yes, I've seen that publication, Georgi, claiming that Georgia is positioning itself as the next global trade hub. That's the one you're referring to, right? Yes, and FDI Intelligence, that's a specialist division from the FT, providing industry-leading insight and analysis on cross-border expansion, greenfield inward investment, and much more and so forth.
Totally on it, Elena. So we will hear more on this from Mikhail Hidureli. He's CEO of state-owned enterprise Georgia.
FDI Intelligence has prepared a very special issue about Georgia, which reflects the country's investment potential and future plan. Worth to mention the headline, "Georgia pushes the boundaries. The country is positioning itself as the next global trade hub." Well, by the end of the day, publication in general, Misha, responds to Georgia's attractive investment environment and includes reviews, of high potential sectors, as well as I found some interviews with existing investors also and representatives of economic directions as well. There were statements coming personally for you about the importance of this publication. Brief us more about FDI Intelligence magazine and about the importance of this report during this period, this special.
Thank you, Georgi, once again for highlighting our, recent updates. FDI Intelligence is definitely one of the most read and most prestigious online and physical magazines in the FDI world. And again, we always say FDI world is not as big as the world itself, so it's still a closed circle. People talk with each other and to each other. It has more than 15,000 subscribers for the magazine and more than 25,000 subscribers for the website, which I think today is more relevant. So this is a special report.
But let us mention here that while we are putting these figures, these are representatives of the top management of the multinational companies. I mean, yeah.
It's a good comment. I wanted to say that as well, and you reminded me. These are the people who make decisions, and these are the people who make decisions about outward FDI investments, not just investments. So, let us deliver. FDI intelligence is very influential, and at the same time, it's very niche. And if we are just saying that magazine website, it's just 36,000 registered subscribers, worth to mention, who are they? Yes. More than 50%, it's our senior managers or investment consultants. So, yeah, absolutely right. We're talking about decision making. So it's a niche, it's a business media, which is always niche, but it goes definitely to decision makers. Sorry for interruption, Misha. No problem at all. It's exactly the specific target audience that we want to attract to Georgia. And it's not just, let's say, general macroeconomic advantages of Georgia that are highlighted in the magazine, but it is very sectoral and very specific. There is an interview of Minister of Economy and Sustainable Development highlighting the key advantages of Georgia. There are sectors that drills down to exact details. And most importantly, you rightly mentioned that we always try to have already existing investors who are kind of, let's say, talking about Georgia and recommending Georgia and talking about the advantages that they have and how they feel in Georgia. So it's a special magazine attached to the main magazine. And we already see results on our LinkedIn pages, on my personal LinkedIn page. Interest is huge because this is not the magazine that would print any type of special report about any country. This takes a lot of work, and we always talk about this topic. You know that during pandemic, we had a very aggressive marketing campaign, but not a general marketing campaign. It was very targeted, and it was targeted at all spots where investment decisions are made. So we are having a good sectoral rankings. We are providing information to the sectoral ranking associations to rank Georgia in the, let's say, BPO ranking, manufacturing index, not just general rankings. And in addition to this, we want to use all the magazines and online media and social media, which is more important now, to be there. So can you imagine an investor, FDI investor, an ordinary day, and everywhere he looks, he sees articles about invest in Georgia. That has a huge effect of credibility. And now we see that. Yes.
No, go ahead. I just remember that since our last interview, lucky you that together with your deputy, also covering investment direction, Tornik Zirakishvili, you had a very important meetings in Dubai. Congrats with the first visit abroad, or maybe it was the second or the third one. Just update us where Enterprise Georgia stands so far. Little by little, step by step, Misha, everything is opening. Where are you guys so far? Brief us about your Dubai meetings, which was on the very high level as well. So here we are going.
We can definitely see a trend of waking up, and pandemic is allowing us to travel as well. And you know that there is no alternative of a physical meeting with an investor. I mean, virtual meeting, the investment attraction is not a type of thing that you can do virtually. I mean, let's agree on this. And we are happy that now we are opening up, and we already had one roadshow in Dubai. We met with a couple of big investment groups like Dubai Investment, who is a huge investment fund that has a big industrial park in Dubai. We discussed different projects, including having a big industrial park in Georgia as well. And we met with Aldar Investments. We met with a couple of other investments, independent investments who are interested in real estate in Georgia. And the next ones we're going to have probably in Europe and United States. So we're going to have at least 3 additional roadshows to Georgia. So just to clarify, there's always a kind of question: what is a roadshow? Is it a business forum, or is it one-to-one meeting. We always classify roadshows as a one-to-one B2B with the investors, because this is the most effective part of it.
Okay. Is there anything what we missed, me and yourself, during the period while we are not updating our foreign followers of the checkpoints and Forbes and BMG, what we have missed during this period of late May and early June?
I think we have to update on our work with OCO Global again.
Correct, absolutely,
with the help of USAID, and again, big thanks to American people in USAID for that. We have hired a global investment consulting firm, OCO Global, who is attracting investments on behalf of Invest in Georgia and Enterprise Georgia. This means it is a very cost-effective and very efficient alternative of having an overseas office in different continents, because these people have been doing this thing more than 30 years. So they have a concrete KPI to attract at least 2 large investments in specific sectors. These sectors, we all know, these are the priority sectors that we work with. And now we can already see that these guys are working on day-to-day basis. So every week, if not every week, once in 2 weeks, we have a meeting with a company that was, let's say, attracted and interested by OCO Global. So we already see this process in motion, and we are very positive that this contract will be fulfilled. Of course, the company will complete the contract, and we're going to get 2 very important investments. Right now, we have logistical projects in the pipeline. We have manufacturing projects in the pipeline, and manufacturing of a very high-tech parts. I don't want to mention any more specifics, but I think if we continue, and we will continue the pace that we work on different dimensions, marketing, which is giving a general awareness of the country, direct communication, which is meeting with the investor and talking to them, and indirect communication like location advisors, associations, and rankings. All these 3 components are the most used techniques by any investment promotion agency. So we can confidently say that Enterprise Georgia and Invest in Georgia department is using all available channels and methods of investment attraction and investment aftercare. So we are very positive about the future results.
Misha, thank you so much. Good luck, personal to you, and best regards to your team. Warmest regards. Hope to see them soon. Thank you.
I think Guillaume's today's work, Georgi, for the checkpoints is fully in line with your interview and its accents with Mikhail Khildureli. Guillaume has talked with 3 foreign investors on the investment climate in Georgia, highlighting both the challenges and opportunities that this environment provides. Guillaume Mullard will end the program today.
Yeah, you should follow us on BMG and Forbes.j. So goodbye for now, and enjoy Guillaume's work.
Camacho Bajuelas. As promised last time, I'm going to meet today with foreign investors who, like me, decided to choose Georgia as a second home, among others for their professional activities. The goal is to know what are for them the pluses but also the minuses of investing here in Georgia for a foreigner. I will try my best to make them speak openly and honestly, highlighting also the disadvantages they are facing on a daily basis. Being myself a Belgian citizen, I've decided firstly to have a conversation with the Honorary Consul of Belgium in Georgia, John Brackveld. Living in Tbilisi for almost 20 years now, this 41-year-old Flemish man is currently the regional manager of the transport company Goslin, the only Belgian company established here in Georgia.
First of all, Guillaume, thank you for the interview. It doesn't happen much. You get interviewed in Georgia. A Belgian gets interviewed by a Belgian, so it's quite nice. Yes, I've been here for 20 years. So I started here in the early 2000s. And if you ask me from an investment climate, yeah, okay, I'm the proof there's a good investment climate because I'm still here after 20 years, so that is actually quite clear. That Georgia is a country where you can do business, where you can invest. As an investor, it is a place where you can do investments. That's the positive. Okay, there are also some hurdles on the back when you do an investors. You need to know your country. You need to know how to communicate, how to work with governments, with fellow businessmen, how you have to make contracts. That's all important things you need to learn. I would say for the moment the biggest hurdle for investment is a bit the business climate and the lack of a public-private dialogue between business and government institutions. For example, on my behalf, I'm the manager of Gosselin. Gosselin is an international mobility company, a moving company, transport. We feel clearly the lack on a dialogue directly with the revenue services and the Ministry of Finance, that we are pointing out that there are problems in the legislation that need to be addressed, and we feel it goes too slow paced. That could be for an investor solved. A very important factor I need to mention also, an investor, foreign direct investment, doesn't just drops here in Georgia and starts here. Mostly, half of all the foreign direct investment starts with, okay, there's a tender in Georgia, government makes a tender, we want to go for the tender, and we want to stay, to keep on investment. So we need to make the tendering process in Georgia much more open for foreign companies also, to attract them, to come here, to develop their company and to stay here also.
Jalian Didi Madloba.
Thank you very much.
The second person we're gonna meet together now is a quite famous face of foreign investors living and working here in Georgia. He's even considered as an ambassador of Georgia in his native country, France. Jacques Fleury, 74 years old, discovered Georgia 25 years ago after being at the head of Bourgomi during 15 years. Then after Chateau Mourani, he's now running 4 different companies in the agro-industrial sector.
The point of view that I will express is the point of view of 25 years of experience of this country, several companies built. One, the advantage of Georgia is that we are in the developing countries. I mean, there is still a lot of opportunities that you don't have in many Western countries. The advantage for an entrepreneur or somebody like me who creates new projects, new companies, is that we can enter in a field where nobody is present for the time being. While if you were investing the same in Europe, you would have already a consolidation of the market and huge competitor. You could not. I never failed any project here, which is itself a sign that the country is feasible. For instance, I'm involved now, in the last 2 years, I created 4 companies in the agro-industrial sector. Where in Europe could you start in 4 different fields of interest? It's not possible, because market is consolidated, you have no chance. Size of the country is interesting because you can easily have a contact for any subject quickly. We are in the middle of basically a hub for a market of course,
The fact that it is in the middle of Asia and Europe is a plus for you?
Is a plus. It's a hub. I mean, let's talk about ex-Soviet Union countries. Is a potential market because Georgia is a well-known country. It's had a good reputation, very good image of a country where citizens of these countries were used to come during summer, and so in general they like Georgia. They like the climate. Not only they like the culture, and they like the hospitality of the people. In the last 4 or 5 years, China, because Georgia has privileged agreement with China, and for instance, in the wine sector, it's one of the 2 or 3 countries in the world that have a free access to the Chinese market. So when you think about Georgia, this is one of the advantages. You must not think about Georgia alone. I play a role of ambassador. I'm always supporting Georgia wherever I can. And I'm just giving back what Georgia has given me in the last 25 years, which is basically to allow me to do things that I would not have been able to do in my own country. I have a very experienced vision of culture, people, and business. And I must say that the country which, and this is why I'm still here after 25 years, the country which is the most friendly and the most capable to welcome you in all the countries where I work is Georgia. In Georgia, I felt that when you do something and you succeed, you are becoming Georgian. This possibility of assimilation and integration, which makes it very interesting for a foreign entrepreneur to be here. Technical assistance for me is a very important issue. It's not taken seriously by international institutions. This is what we need here. There is enough education in university to train the people, but we lack a lot of practical, simple practical experience. Of course, there's still a lot of progress to be made. I think as much as the previous government was a reformist, a violent reformist, which sometimes you didn't agree with what they were doing. This government maybe is weak in its capacity to make reforms, because they take more in consideration existing business, and the previous government was doing whatever they wanted, and sometimes it was very good. I think they started very good. After it was a chaos, but at the beginning it was because they could do it. This government has more difficulty to reform and do the change that are necessary for the country.
After a Belgian investor and a French one, the last person I propose you to meet today comes from Netherlands. Used to ex-Soviet Union countries, Ruud van Heel, 57 years old, has been involved in many huge projects in Georgia for more than 20 years, especially in Bojomi like Jacques Fleury, but also in real estate or shopping centers.
It's a free country. I think that's important. You can do what you want, but you have to do it yourself. Don't expect government, local government to help you. When you have the right people with you, the right partners, not necessarily Georgian partners, but if you have the right partners with you, you can do a lot here. Even if you're not helped, you are also not helped against. I think that's important. Banking system is quite sophisticated here. The environment is very, very nice here. The scenery is incredible. The weather is good. If that's a reason to invest, I don't know, but it's a plus. Obviously, there are some negative things too. I would say that don't expect too much help from the government, even though they promote that they do, but it's a bit difficult. Not another thing, which the situation is with when you work with people here, they always want to involve their family in the business. So when you have a partner or somebody who is in the business close to you, they always introduce a family member who is not necessarily fit for the job, but that's always what you see. They're pushing in this way. Georgians are not people that work on the clock. So if they're an hour late, it happens. There's some good expertise. You have to say that. Don't let the Georgian build a house, but let the Georgian finish the house, because they are really artists in music, in art, in the small things. If you look at this building, also the way they finish it, they can really do this. You bring your skill. You have an idea, or you bring your skill and you bring your money, but find the right partner. Don't do it on your own. Don't bring the money and leave. Stay, or at least find somebody reliable, and maybe a person that has been here longer than a couple of years, that knows the business, that you can trust. and build it up with him. Don't do it alone. Find the right partner. It's not a new country, but it's in the middle of a development. It's not as far as Russia is. But it's much further than, and it wants to be with Europe. So they are trying to implement European standards. The banks are European standards, I would say. The registration system is very easy here. To be honest, the last 2-3 years we see a little bit of a standstill politically. And that's because of the elections, because of maybe the competence of the government itself. I think only a few people actually make decisions in the government, and that means that a lot of people don't make those decisions, and people are afraid to make decisions. I'm in another project where we are trying to build a McDonald's, drive-in McDonald's. We are waiting for a permit for more than 6 months because they say the way the traffic is going is not correct. Well, we have used the only expert available in Georgia who is always advising the government, and he said it's okay. But somewhere within the government, the local government has to make a decision, doesn't dare to make the decision. And that's the problem, because the guy above him is probably on holiday or whatever. And that's maybe typically Georgia for the moment, and the way things are now. And to be honest, it used to be better than that, that people are afraid to make decisions. And everything is based on permits. I mean, you cannot do anything without a permit here. And sometimes it comes quickly, and sometimes it takes ages.